The little girl said it so casually, so innocently, that for a moment, Nathan Carter thought he had misheard her. But when her wide hazel eyes met his again, steady and certain, his entire world tilted. She stood there in the middle of the grocery store aisle, clutching a half-melted popsicle, and repeated it in a quiet, unwavering voice that didn't belong to someone so small. She told him her mother had his tattoo. The exact one carved into his skin years ago, a mark he had spent his whole life trying to forget. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unexpected ways life brings people back together, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this remind us that even the most broken paths can lead somewhere beautiful. Nathan had spent the last 6 years building a life that felt safe, quiet, and controlled. After losing his wife, Rebecca, in a car accident that still haunted his dreams, he had become both father and mother to his 6-year-old son, Oliver. Life had narrowed into routines, school drop-offs, late-night work shifts, quick dinners, and long silences after Oliver went to sleep. He avoided anything that reminded him of the men he used to be. That man had been reckless, hopeful, and deeply in love once before Rebecca, a lifetime ago in another version of himself. The tattoo on his forearm was the only piece of that past he couldn't erase. A simple compass with a small, imperfect heart at its center. It had been done in a tiny shop in Portland during a summer that felt like it belonged to someone else. Back then, he had been young and drifting, and he had met a woman named Clara Whitmore who believed that lost people could always find their way back. She had laughed easily, loved fiercely, and carried a quiet sadness that Nathan never fully understood. They had spent 3 months together that felt like 3 lifetimes, promising things neither of them knew how to keep. Then one morning, she was gone, leaving behind only a note that said she hoped he would find his true north someday. Nathan never saw her again. Not until that moment in the grocery store aisle, standing face to face with a child who claimed something impossible. He knelt down slowly, his heartbeat thundering in his ears, and studied the girl more carefully. Her hair was a soft chestnut brown, falling in messy curls around her face. There was something achingly familiar about the shape of her eyes, the curve of her smile. It hit him not all at once, but in fragments, like pieces of a puzzle forcing themselves together against his will. The girl introduced herself as Sophie Whitmore. The name struck him like a lightning bolt. Whitmore. Clara. Everything inside him tightened, memories crashing back with overwhelming force. He tried to stay calm, to tell himself it was coincidence, that names repeated themselves all the time. But then Sophie did something that shattered any remaining doubt. She rolled up the sleeve of her tiny sweater and pointed to a small, faded drawing inked on her arm. It wasn't permanent, just a child's imitation, slightly smudged, but it was unmistakable. A crude version of his compass tattoo, copied with surprising care. She explained, in the simple, unfiltered way only children can, that her mom had the same one, exactly like his. She said her mom called it, a promise that never broke, even if people did. Nathan felt the air leave his lungs. Everything he had buried, everything he had convinced himself no longer mattered, came rushing back with unbearable clarity. He asked where her mother was, his voice barely steady, and Sophie pointed toward the parking lot, saying she was waiting in the car because she wasn't feeling well. Nathan didn't remember leaving his cart behind. He didn't remember calling Oliver's school to say he'd be late picking him up. All he remembered was walking out into the bright afternoon sunlight, his heart pounding like it was trying to break free from his chest. The car was parked near the edge of the lot, an older sedan with faded paint and a cracked windshield. Inside, in the passenger seat, sat a woman he would have recognized anywhere, no matter how many years had passed. Clara Whitmore. She looked different, older, more fragile, her face thinner, her eyes carrying a weight that hadn't been there before. But it was her. There was no mistaking it. The same quiet strength, the same softness, the same presence that had once made him believe the world could be something more than what it was. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The silence between them stretched, heavy with everything that had been left unsaid all those years ago. When she finally stepped out of the car, Nathan noticed the slight tremor in her hands, the way she leaned against the door for support. Something wasn't right. Clara spoke first, her voice gentle but strained, as if every word cost her something. She admitted she had hoped never to see him again, not because she didn't care, but because she cared too much. She told him she had left all those years ago because she had discovered she was pregnant, and she believed Nathan deserved a life free from the chaos she carried with her. Nathan felt the ground shift beneath him. Sophie. His daughter. The realization hit him with a force that left him breathless. Clara explained that she had tried to raise Sophie on her own, moving from place to place, taking whatever jobs she could find. Life hadn't been kind to her. Illness had crept in slowly, stealing her strength piece by piece until even simple tasks became overwhelming. She had kept the tattoo as a reminder of the one time in her life she had felt truly seen, truly understood. She told Sophie stories about a man who believed in finding his way, even when he was lost. Nathan listened, his heart breaking with every word. He thought about all the years he had missed. The first steps, the first words, the countless moments that had passed without him even knowing they existed. Guilt washed over him, sharp and relentless. But beneath the pain, something else began to grow. Something stronger. Hope. Because despite everything, despite the lost time and the broken promises, they were standing here now. And maybe that meant something. Nathan didn't hesitate when he told Clara he wanted to be part of Sophie's life. He didn't pretend it would be easy, or that he could make up for the past overnight. But he promised he would try, every single day, to be the father Sophie deserved. Clara's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of something softer, something closer to relief. She admitted she was tired, that she had been carrying everything alone for too long. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe she didn't have to anymore. The weeks that followed were messy, complicated, and deeply emotional. Nathan introduced Sophie to Oliver, who was hesitant at first but quickly warmed to the idea of having a sister. Their small home, once quiet and predictable, filled with laughter, chaos, and a kind of warmth Nathan hadn't felt in years. Clara moved in temporarily, her health continuing to decline, but her spirit slowly lifting as she watched Nathan and Sophie build a bond that should have existed from the beginning. There were moments of regret, moments when the weight of lost time felt unbearable. But there were also moments of pure, undeniable joy. Late-night conversations turned into shared memories. Broken pieces slowly began to fit together again. Nathan found himself rediscovering parts of who he used to be, the hopeful, fearless version of himself that believed in second chances. But this time, it wasn't just about him. It was about Sophie, about Oliver, about Clara, about the family they were becoming. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the backyard, Sophie sat between Nathan and Clara, tracing the compass tattoo on his arm with her tiny fingers. She smiled in that quiet, knowing way that children sometimes do, as if she understood something far deeper than anyone expected. Before we reach the end, take a moment and tell us in the comments, do you believe people are meant to find their way back to each other, no matter how much time has passed? Nathan realized then that the tattoo he had once seen as a reminder of something lost had become something else entirely. It was no longer about a past he couldn't change. It was about a future he had been given a second chance to build. Clara leaned her head against his shoulder, her breathing slow and steady, and for the first time in years, Nathan felt something he thought he had lost forever. Peace. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep stories like this alive, reminding us all that even in the darkest moments, there is always a way back to the light.